This is the HTC U Ultra, the new high-spec, big-screen smartphone launched alongside the HTC U Play back in January. And while it's not being positioned as a direct follow-up to last year's HTC 10, with no other flagships on the immediate horizon from the manufacturer, is this a phone you should be considering alongside models like the LG G6 or even the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus? I'm Stephen Shank with PhoneArena. Let's take a closer look at this hardware as I get right into my HTC U Ultra review. What do you do when you're a smartphone manufacturer stuck in a bit of, shall we say, a tailspin? For years now, HTC's been struggling to find its voice in a breakneck competitive market. And while that's led to interesting devices like VR hardware and some fitness gear, the company's phones haven't been able to recapture the share of sales that they enjoyed back around the turn of the decade. Rather than continuing to do the same old thing and hope something changes, HTC's realizing that it needs to shake up its handset lineup a little, and rather than getting us ready for the no-doubt iterative launch of the HTC 11, the manufacturer is trying something new for the start of 2017, launching a new family of devices and hoping that it can appeal to shoppers looking for a high-end phablet with the introduction of the 5.7-inch HTC U Ultra. While some phones with screens this big do everything they can to still look and feel small, playing with display geometry, shrinking down bezels, or even attempting some curved screen magic, the U Ultra doesn't buy into such tricks. Its screen is unapologetically massive. Hell, HTC even ups the ante with the inclusion of an LG V-Series style secondary display nestled up on top of the main screen. The result is one of the biggest 5.7-inch phones you can buy. Though the U Ultra's body is large, HTC does take steps to rein things in a little bit, like a curved back construction that tapers down to a quite thin-feeling edge. Still, that implementation isn't quite seamless, resulting in oddities like a raised bump just to accommodate the bottom-edge USB Type-C port. That port's the only one you're going to find on this phone, as like last year's HTC Bolt, the U Ultra lacks an analog headphone jack. That leaves two of the phone's four edges smooth and uninterrupted by protrusions, giving the handset an attractive, flowing look that works well with the incredibly shiny mirror finish used to decorate the U Ultra's back. Available in white and black in addition to this stunningly bold blue, the materials look great, and then you start touching them and spend the next 5 minutes trying to wipe off all your fingerprints. Thankfully, HTC includes a helpful cleaning cloth for just such situations. And once you do get the U Ultra looking spotless once again, HTC also throws in a transparent protective case you can pop on, not just to protect the phone's hardware, but also keep it looking its best. The U Ultra's screen is a 5.7-inch Quad HD panel with a 1440 by 2560 resolution. Basically, that's what we got in the HTC 10, only here in a larger form factor. And while that renders it a bit less pixel dense, it's still a very sharp, good-looking screen, capable of reasonably bright output and offering some decent color accuracy, further adjustable in software to get the color temperature right where you like it. But what we're most interested in is the secondary display, a 2.05-inch 1040 by 160 pixel strip perched up in the handset's top right corner. Just like we're familiar with from the LG V10 and V20, this display is used to show notifications, offer shortcuts, and even let you check phone status while the primary display is powered down. There's a good amount of customization options, letting you configure how and when the secondary display is engaged, and allowing you to configure those shortcuts to apps and frequently used contacts. It's a fine idea, and one that certainly helps the U Ultra stand out, but also doesn't feel like it adds a ton of value. And unlike, say, the longer screen of the LG G6, general-purpose Android apps don't tap into this extra screen real estate, limiting its use. We also don't love the tendency of the phone's backlight to illuminate the secondary screen when not in use, like when watching a full-screen video, nor its inability to gracefully handle landscape orientation. As for the rest of the phone's interface, HTC Sense offers a welcome mix of features and customization, including HTC's renowned theming engine, while simultaneously avoiding feeling too heavy or getting in your way. Motion launch gestures offer some useful shortcuts, including to Blink Feed, which makes its return as your one-stop shop for news and information. What's less successful, at least for now, is the new HTC Sense Companion. With voice control and some machine learning smarts, it's supposed to help make your phone work for you, anticipating needs and customizing the U Ultra experience to help you get the most out of it. The software has only just arrived, and while that's limited our time with it, what we've seen suggests that the companion still has some growing up to do. For the moment, it feels quite limited, and that big emphasis on AI sometimes leaves you feeling a little like you're less in control than you'd like to be. That said, the service is still maturing, and we may want to take another look at it and what it can do a little further out. The U Ultra is powered by a Snapdragon 821 processor equipped with 4GB of RAM. That's a very capable pairing, and our testing shows the phone performing very much as expected. Considering the early year launch of the U Ultra, that choice of the 821 is quite sensible, but we sure hope HTC takes a closer look at the 835 for its next flagship-level device. Storage arrives at a very comfortable 64GB level, which we wish were the case for more phones. The presence of microSD expansion lets you push beyond even that should you so choose. The U Ultra's big screen makes it a good fit for watching video, and your media should sound as good as it looks thanks to stereo speakers. The bottom-edge speaker carries much of the load here, and while the earpiece's output is much quieter, it's just enough to help balance things and improve the audio's presence. Like last year's Bolt, HTC includes a pair of USB Type-C earbuds, making up a little for the lack of an analog headphone jack. The phone software can tap into this hardware to optimize sound delivery for your ear canal, and while we're not sure how much of that is science and how much basic equalizer tweaking, the result really does sound quite nice. That said, it's still unforgivable that HTC refuses to include an analog headphone adapter, especially after it offered to give away such an accessory for free to Bolt owners. Maybe everything will be USB only in a few years, but until then, you've got to throw users a bone and give them time to adjust. Voice calls on the U Ultra sound good, though the handset is so large that we hate holding it to our ear for any appreciable amount of time. The good news there is that the speakerphone is also quite solid, perhaps thanks to the U Ultra's array of 4 microphones. Of course, you'll probably get more use out of those while recording video, so let's look at the U Ultra's imaging hardware. The main camera is a 12-megapixel Ultra Pixel 2 component with laser autofocus and optical stabilization. Really, it sounds almost exactly like the same camera hardware we got on the HTC 10. The front facer is slightly more interesting, a higher-res 16-megapixel sensor with a selectable ultra-pixel mode that downgrades resolution to 4 megapixels while benefiting from increased light sensitivity. HTC's camera performance in the past has been a little hit and miss, and while the U Ultra doesn't give us the best camera on the market by any stretch, it's still a pretty solid shooter with fast capture times, good auto HDR support, and output that, while it can get a little noisy at full zoom, generally looks pretty nice at arm's length. It doesn't promise a lot, but it really does deliver. Maybe the trick all along was keeping things simple. Video performance is similarly satisfying, offering filming at resolutions up to 4K. Our only real upset here, beyond some pickiness about the way the UI makes you cycle through filming resolutions rather than just picking one from a list, is some difficulty refocusing while recording, though that only popped up for really close to camera subjects. Finally, we've got to talk about the U Ultra's battery. A big screen like this handset has craves power, but the U Ultra isn't quite as well equipped as it could be to meet that need. HTC's given the handset a meager 3,000 mAh battery, and while that may be enough to get you through a day of casual usage, those last few hours could prove to be a bit dicey. We'd have usually preferred HTC to go with something like a 3,500 mAh component, even if that meant a slightly thicker, less tapered build. On the plus side, recharge times are speedy, with the fast charger refilling the battery in just a little over an hour and a half. The HTC U Ultra does a lot of things okay. It's got good performance, a decent camera, and the phone's got an attractive finish, at least until you cover it in fingerprints. But it's also a phone with a surprisingly small battery, one that doesn't do anything really innovative with its secondary screen, and frankly it just feels a little bit large, though opinions will certainly differ on that last point. All of this adds up to a package that just doesn't feel polished enough to compete with Samsung's or even LG's spring flagships. Now, maybe if the U Ultra were priced a little bit more competitively, say around $600 like the Mate 9, we'd be looking at it in a more favorable light. Instead, HTC's asking a staggering $750 for this hardware. We'll be keeping an eye on it to see if that comes down, but at this price, no thank you. I'm Stephen Shank with PhoneArena. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of this season's hot new phones.